Hi everyone, welcome back to Pages of the Globe. Today I'm going to be reading to you the short story Memories of My Mother by Ken Liu. Now this is a very interesting science fiction flash fiction story which is about a young mother who has an unnamed terminal disease. She'll die in 2 years, but she decides to stretch out her remaining time to experience the life of her young daughter Amy. So she sets off in a spacecraft and travels with speed and visits every 7 years for one night. She first discovers she has this disease when her daughter is around 3. So she next meets her daughter at 10, 17, 21, and you get it. Now you'll see through Amy's memories what she thinks of her mom, and since she doesn't know her much, it's hard for her to connect with her. Now, flash fiction is definitely not one of my favorite genres, but this is a very interesting read, and I suggest you listen close. Ken Liu is a very celebrated American writer who often writes science fiction and fantasy. His epic fantasy series, The Dandelion Dynasty, which he describes himself as silk punk, was kind of what brought him to fame in the beginning. He has written many books, most of them within the Dandelion Dynasty series, and short stories as well. He was born in 1976 in Langzhou, China. So he often brings his Chinese upbringing into his stories, which you will see with Amy's mother as well. He has won the Nebula Award, the Hugo Award, and the World Fantasy Awards for his fiction, short stories, and books. Now, as I said before, he describes his fantasy series as silk punk, which is his own invention almost. He uses it to describe a technology aesthetic based on science fictional elaboration of traditions of engineering in East Asia's classical antiquity. Now, while you won't see much of East Asia's influence in this short story, if you decide to read some of his other books and short stories, it's just so prevalent. For example, one of his most famous novels, The Paper Menagerie, is a fantasy short story that incorporates Asian American struggles with magical realism. Without further ado, let's get on with the story. Remember to like, share, subscribe, and comment down below which short story you would like to hear next. Memories of My Mother by Ken Liu. 10. Dad greeted me at the door nervous. Amy, look who's here. He stepped aside. She looked exactly the way she did in pictures, hung everywhere in our house. Black hair, brown eyes, smooth, pale skin. Yet she also felt like a stranger. I put down my book bag, unsure what to do. She walked over, leaned down, and hugged me, first loosely, then very tight. She smelled like a hospital. Dad had told me that the doctors had no cure for her sickness. She had only 2 years left to live. They're so big. Her breath felt warm and tickly on my neck, and suddenly I hugged my mother back. Mom brought me presents, a dress that was too small, a set of books that were too old, a model of the rocket ship she rode in. I was on a very long trip, she said. The trip went so fast that time slowed inside. It felt like only 3 months. Dad had explained it all to me. This was how she would cheat time, stretch out her 2 years so that she could watch me grow. But I didn't stop her. I liked listening to her voice. I didn't know what you would like. She was embarrassed by the gifts that surrounded me. Gifts that were meant for another child, the daughter of her mind. What I really wanted was a guitar, but Dad thought I was too young. If I had been older, I might have told her that it was all right, that I loved her gift, but I was not yet so good at lying. I asked her how long she would stay with us. Instead of answering, she said, "Let's stay up all night and we'll do everything Dad says you can't do." We went out and she bought me a guitar. I finally fell asleep at 7 in the morning in her lap. It was a fantastic night. When I woke up, she was gone. 17. Why are you here? I slammed the door in my mother's face. Amy! Dad opened the door again. Seeing him next to my mother, still 25, still exactly the same woman from the pictures, I suddenly realized how old he had grown. He was the one who had held me when I was scared out of my wits by the blood I found in my panties. He was the one who, red-faced, mumbled to the store clerk to beg her to fit me for a bra. He was the one who stood there and held me while I screamed at him. She has no right to dip back into my life once every 7 years like some fairy godmother. Later, she knocked on my bedroom door. I stayed in bed and said nothing. She came in anyway. She had crossed light years to get here, and a plywood door wasn't going to stop her. I liked that she pushed her way in to see me, and I also hated it. It was confusing. "That's an elegant dress," she said. My prom dress was hanging from the back of the door. It was elegant, and it cost me half my savings, but I had torn it near the waist. After a while, I turned around and sat up. She was in my chair sewing. She had cut a guitar-shaped piece from her own silver dress and patched it over the tear in mine. It was perfect. "My mother died when I was a little girl," she said. "I never got to know her. So I decided that I would do something different when I found out." It was strange to hug her. She could have been my older sister. 38. Mom and I sat in the park. Baby Debbie was asleep in the stroller, and Adam was with the other boys by the jungle gym, screaming with joy. "I never got to meet Scott," she said, apologetic. "We weren't dating last time I visited during grad school." "He was a good man," I almost said. "We just grew apart." It would have been easy. I had been lying for so long to everyone, including myself. But I was tired of lying. He was awful. It just took me years to admit it. "Love makes us do strange things," she said. Mom was only 26. When I was her age, I had been full of hope too. Could she really understand my life? She asked me how Dad had died. I told her that he went peacefully, even if it wasn't true. There were more lines on my face than on hers, and I felt that I needed to protect her. "Let's not speak of any more sad things," she said, and I was angry with her for being able to smile, and I was also glad that she was there with me. It was confusing. So we spoke about the baby and watched Adam play until it was dark. 80. "Adam?" I asked. It's hard for me to turn the wheelchair, and everything seems so dim in my eyes. It can't be Adam. He's been really busy with his new baby. Maybe it's Debbie, but Debbie never visits. "It's me," she says, and squats down before me. I squint. She still looks the exact same, but not the exact same. The smell of medicine is stronger than ever, and I can feel her hands shaking. "How long have you been traveling?" I ask. "Since you started?" 2 years and counting," she says. "I'm not leaving again." I'm sad to hear this, and yet I'm also happy. It's confusing. Was it worth it? "I got to see less of you than most mothers, but also more." She pulls up a chair next to me, and I lean my head on her shoulder. I fall asleep, feeling young and knowing that she'll be there when I wake up.